All right, Mr. Chair, we're recording and the floor is yours.
Thank you, sir. Welcome everyone to the whatever day we are, May 16th, Thursday, May 16th, Fire Service Membership Council Governing Committee meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order, and Carl, if you don't mind doing the roll call.
Glad to do it. So Sean Toomey, I've got you. Tim Diehl, I see you. Brian Adams, are you here? I know he's at EFO this week. Okay, Marshall Black. Ed Black.
Sorry, yes, I am here.
Gotcha. All right, Rick Boisfort. Rick Boisfort. Wendy Collins. Wendy Collins. Marshall Desrochers.
Yes, sir.
Oh, yeah, thanks. Chief Hyde.
Here, Carl.
Gotcha, thanks. Ed Kaminsky. Ed Kaminsky.
I saw him.
I'm here. I'm
Yeah,
here.
he's here. There he is. All right, he's just reaching for the mic. All right, Andy King is out at the IAFC's Community Risk Reduction and Leaders Conference today. Chief Lefevre. Marshall Lund.
Present.
Gotcha. Chief McShane. Chief McShane. Larry Medina.
Here.
Martha Nelson.
Afternoon, everybody.
Ellie Nicolello, I saw you, sir.
Present.
Christine Reed. Christine Reed. She's at the Community Risk Reduction Conference today.
Yeah, or that or flying or something today.
Yeah, right. And then Chief Wassom. Mark Wassom. We got right out of quorum. Actually, we're one over. So meeting
That's
back to you.
good.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Welcome everyone again. Thank you for being here today. We have a good number of guests on, not as big as our normal numbers, but that's okay. We'd like to jump right into our presentation today on A2Ls and A3s on the horizon. Jim's with us from the PMG group to share a little bit of work that he's been monitoring. So Jim, thank you.
Oh, thanks for having me on. I did pull together some slides that I'm going to go ahead and share with you here. And you should be able to see those now.
Yeah, you're up.
Okay, good. So as everyone knows, there has been a lot going on in the world of refrigerants. Say that again. Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, we can hear. I'm going to go through and mute some folks for you.
Oh, okay. So there has been a lot going on in the world of refrigerants the past few years, primarily with the transition to A2Ls. But lately, there's been a lot of activity around the future of refrigerants. And Carl and I were discussing this the other day and been doing some things. And he asked me to come on here today to join you and kind of give you a quick update on where we stand currently with the A2Ls, and then give you some insight into where things may be heading in the future. So basically, I'm going to, slides aren't transition. There we go. Just a quick little brief history. So the early years of refrigeration began in 1835, and going back, for that first 100 years, those were refrigerants like chlorofluorocarbons. Well, actually, those were not then. The 1835s were the methyl chloride, ammonia, and sulfur dioxide were the primary refrigerants, and those were used for like about the first 100 years of refrigeration. But all of those are toxic gases, and due to some fires and poisonings that took place, the industry kind of phased those out and developed around the 1930s timeframe the CFC refrigerants and the HCFC refrigerants. Those are both colorless, odorless, non-flammable refrigerants. They're stable, and the common ones were R12 and for the for CFCs, and then R22 for HCFCs. But they're widely used from the 30s into the 2000s, and however they were found to have high ozone depletion potential and a high global warming potential. So they're currently being phased out, and this phase out of CFCs began in '94, and HCFCs started in 2010. And their replacements are predominantly what we're using now as the hydrofluorocarbon or HFC refrigerants. And those are a class of chlorine-free refrigerants that were developed in the 70s. And the common ones there are R32 and R410A. And they've been widely used from the 90s up until now. So while those HFC refrigerants have little to no ozone depletion potential, they do have a high global warming potential. So the EPA is working towards phasing them out. Right now, it's a phase down. So the first step is the phase down that's been taking place since 2022, and it's going to continue through 2036, and that's basically it takes us to an 85% reduction. So we would be operating at 15% of what was produced and used based on a 2021 baseline level. So recently, EPA has taken further steps towards a complete phase out of HFCs. And this came with a recently published final rule for a technology transition program for residential and light commercial HVAC equipment. And under this program, manufacturers can't produce HVAC systems for this market segment that utilize any refrigerants with GWPs above 700 on or after January 1st of 2025. So just down the road. And the installation of those systems, and this is as new systems, is prohibited on or after January 1, 2026. And that is installation. So they have 1 year of sell-through and installation. So they have to be in service by January 1 of 2026, or they are illegal systems. So this program is going to really rapidly increase the transition to A2L refrigerants over the next couple of years for these, the residential and light commercial markets. So that's where we are today. And, looking at what does the future look like? So the next generation of refrigerants can include things like the hydrofluoroolefins or HFOs, and HFO or HFO and HFC blends. These are both mildly flammable refrigerants. We also have hydrocarbon refrigerants like propane, which obviously are highly flammable. The common HFO, HFC blends that are in use today are the R454A and R454B. So one important note regarding the HFO refrigerants is that while EPA doesn't currently identify them as a PFAS chemical or these forever chemicals, several European countries do identify HFO refrigerants as PFAS chemicals. And the regulation of these chemicals is something that we're going to need to keep an eye on, as many of the A2L refrigerants that we're currently transitioning to are HFOs or HFO blends. So it's another regulation that the government's rolling out with PFAS stuff that we have to keep an eye on. All right, come on, screen. All right, so this chart shows us the overall timeline for the EPA phase down schedule. And this is, again, just for the phase down to that 85% level. As you can see here, for the past couple of years, we've been operating at a 10% reduction level. You see up there, we're at the 90% production. And at the beginning of this year, you see, as highlighted by that green dash line, we added an additional 30% reduction. So we are currently operating at a 40% reduction level over the levels we were previously operating in prior to 2022. And we're going to operate at this level for the next 5 years. And at that point, there'll be another 30% reduction and then a couple smaller ones going on to 2036. But again, that's just to give you an overall timeline of that. And again, remember 2025, they're doing that equipment transition. So for the residential, like commercial markets, you'll see the transition happen quicker. Okay, so as we move forward with the phase down, you probably heard a lot about the transition to A2L refrigerants. But as shown in this chart, A2Ls are not the only refrigerants that are alternatives for the HFCs. So the way the alternatives are determined is EPA, through its significant SNAP alternative policy, or its SNAP program, establishes what refrigerants can be used as an alternative or acceptable refrigerant. EPA conducts safety assessments, etc., when granting the approvals for those. And they establish these terms of use, which you can see in the far right column, that include the use conditions, such as the equipment meeting the requirements of the UL standards, etc. So this SNAP Rule 23 introduced 8 alternatives for residential and light commercial air conditioning and heat pump systems. And note that all of them are flammable to some degree. The 6 approved for split system air conditioning and heat pump use are classified as A2Ls. And 2 of the 3 refrigerants approved for self-contained AC units, the R290 and R441A, are classified as A3 refrigerants. So we're already getting into A3s today. So looking at the current status of industry standards, we have 4 important standards referenced by the IMC. From ASHRAE, we have the 2022 version of ASHRAE Standard 15, which has been updated. The standard covers the safety standards for refrigeration systems. The 2022 version of the ASHRAE Standard 34 was released, and that covers the designation and safety classification of refrigerations. In addition to the ASHRAE standards, we have 2 UL standards shown here. UL 6335-2-40 covers household heat pumps and air conditioners, where the 60335-2-89 covers commercial refrigerating appliances. So these UL equipment standards are referenced by the IMC and are now current and include coverage for A2L refrigerants. These are also what are identified in SNAP 23 for those alternative refrigerants. So all of these have been updated and available to help facilitate that smooth transition to A2Ls. So looking at the status of the building codes, 2021 editions of codes and earlier, you probably all know this already, but they prohibit the use of A2L refrigerants for human comfort uses. With those codes as is, A2L refrigerants would have to be treated as a Class A2 flammable refrigerant. In addition, these codes reference older ASHRAE and UL standards that don't fully address A2L refrigerants. Looking at the 24 versions of the code, including the mechanical, building, and fire code, the 24 editions of the codes allow the use of A2Ls for human comfort uses. The A2L coverage is now aligned with the latest 2022 editions of the ASHRAE 15 and 34 standards. And the HVAC equipment needs now to comply with the latest equipment standards, the 6335-2-40 or 6335-2-89 from UL. And lastly, all code references in the I-codes are to the latest standards, eliminating any kind of potential conflicts with installations and then the like. So the dilemma we face is that 24 codes obviously have not been adopted anywhere. So to facilitate the smooth transition, two A2Ls. The currently adopted codes either need to be changed, amended, or otherwise to take on or pull in some of that 2024 language that will help with the installation and the safe operation of this equipment. Right? Yeah. Part of the work that's been going on with trade associations, manufacturers, and I've been involved with some of the social media campaigns and stuff, trying to help facilitate the transition from HFCs to A2Ls. AHRI has been the biggest one in trying to get states to either adopt the code provisions from the 24 codes or to bring in some kind of legislation so that the equipment that utilizes SNAP refrigerants cannot be prohibited from use within the states. And this map that you see here kind of highlights or summarizes the status of where they have come. And they've done a lot of work, and some of it's good for us, some of it's not, because a lot of these states, as you can see, the dark green states, those ones have A2L legislation passed, and they have A2L code provisions that have been updated. The medium green color is legislation only passed, so the building codes won't match the state legislation. So there could be problems in enforcing installation requirements and stuff in those states. The light green, the A2L code provisions have been updated. There's no yellow on here, but those are that's reserved for states where legislation is in process. So HRI and others are still trying to get these gray states that are still on there, Nevada and Kentucky, and then Massachusetts, they're still trying to get them to legislate. So there's still efforts to get those states to move forward. There they have nothing legislatively or in the codes to allow the use of A2L. So those states can be problematic as this rollout continues. So that's kind of where we stand with the A2L situation right now. And the key now is what is in store for the future refrigerants in the US. And following the direction of the Biden administration, DOE has recently kicked off a series of industry workshops to help move the US to the next level of refrigerants. So as we discussed earlier, these could be HFOs, HFC blends, could be the hydrocarbon refrigerants, or others like CO2 or ammonia. Going back to some of the earlier refrigerants that were used. That in any case, the administration is not telling industry what to do, but is strongly pushing for ultra-low global warming potential refrigerants. So with the bar currently set at that 700 GWP level for residential and light commercial, they want to quickly get to the next level. So states like California and New York are already targeting GWP limits of 15. But DOE wants us to look at what the ultimate target should be. Can we go lower than that? Their ultimate goal is to get zero ozone depletion and zero global warming potential. But that's difficult, if not impossible, to get to. They just, they're pulling as many interested parties as they can get together to figure out, they want to get there in about a 3 to 5 year time frame. So they were, this all ties to the, Kigali Amendment and all this kind of stuff, and all these global target dates for hitting, emission reduction levels across the globe. And, part of this is, by 2030, New York and California are wanting to get, their emissions levels down to certain points and all that stuff. And getting rid of these refrigerants is part of how they are planning to get there. So I do have a few slides to summarize what we did in the first DOE workshop, just to give you an idea of what they're thinking. So the White House staffers were on hand, or a few on hand, to let us know that the White House priorities moving forward are what you see here. They understand that it takes time to make refrigerant transitions, and they know that we need to update regulations. The manufacturers are going to have to retool potentially, and we need to look at and update the safety codes and standards to implement any kind of new technologies. But they want industry to look for technologies or products that are used in other parts of the world that could be brought to the US market. And they also want everyone to be ambitious in these efforts and throwing out that caveat, but do it in a safe manner. So the key is here, I mentioned that international or the global market, they want to look out, and, Europe's ahead of us on these moves to the next generation ultra low GWP refrigerants. So, we had this next slide I'll go to, before I get to the international influence, they did have, during the workshop, they had representatives from GSA and Target and Walmart and other groups that were on hand that kind of give us what their issues are with refrigeration and looking to the future. Target and Walmart are two good examples of companies that are huge in the United States and globally, for Walmart anyway. And they have sustainability goals that they're trying to hit for 2030 and beyond. And they need to get to the next level of refrigerants to obtain those goals. So they're setting these goals and hoping that the industry is going to get the equipment and everything there so that they can attain their corporate goals, on a global level. So they're looking at issues like electrification in addition to the refrigerant transitions, and they want industry to find cost-effective long-term solutions to reach those goals. And so, these groups they've got the ear of the administration, and they're part of that push to getting to that future refrigerant, whatever it may be. So we also heard from some international interest, and they provided overviews of their current air conditioning, heat pump, and refrigeration technologies and stuff that they use in Europe. They covered residential, commercial, as well as transport and mobile applications and stuff. And, they provided their opinions as to whether A3 refrigerants would be a viable option for the US. And because they are ultra low GWP, they have good efficiencies, but we have flammability as the challenge for those refrigerants. They are commercially using they're commercially selling systems over there now, and they are moving ahead with using A3 refrigerants, and they'd like to be able to sell them here. Problems are, we have those UL 60335 standards. They have IEC versions of those that are international European versions. They're not as stringent as the UL version. So they just want us to take their third-party certification, take their equipment as is, and start selling it across the US. And the administration's listening to that. And I know they're sitting back going, why isn't any good? Why can't we do that? And, we have the codes and standards folks all saying, wait a second, we can't, we have to go through our processes. And, that's kind of what I'm getting out of the administration, what DOE is doing with this workshop is they're trying to say, hey, are there ways to fast track this through our processes and stuff? So no attempts to do it yet, but they're definitely aggressively pursuing that. Some of the HVAC manufacturers that were on hand, again, these are large global companies, Johnson Controls, Carrier, Trane, these are all companies that already have, they have the ultra low GWP products that are already in the market here in the US with these refrigerants you see here, the R454B, et cetera, across that middle of the screen there. But again, as you get to the A3 refrigerants and stuff, that the biggest challenge that they see bringing the equipment that's being used in Europe is that, the way we design in the US is currently, we have refrigerant flow into a home using direct systems. The refrigerant's flowing straight into your air handler and through the coil there. So if you have a leak, you would have flammable refrigerant or A3 refrigerant going straight into the home or the building. for flammable refrigerants, indirect systems are what are needed. And, with Europe, they don't use a lot of forced air systems. A lot of their stuff is hydronic systems. So they're already indirect systems that they're using. So it's an easy change for them. Moving forward in the US, it may not be as simple a process because we're a big forced air market, and we're not into a lot of primary, secondary hydronic systems. We have a lot of them in the Northeast, where I'm from and currently reside, but in the Southeast, where I spent majority of my life, hydronic systems are non-existent. It's all forced air. So, trying to transition an entire, half of a country to new installation requirements and things of that nature is not going to be an easy process. So a lot of these things are being discussed and talked about with the group. We did talk, with ASHRAE and UL provided their takes on the process. I won't get through all this because you guys are very familiar with our process on code development and, how it all went with A2Ls, getting the ASHRAE standards, UL standards updated and then incorporated into the building codes. And, both of those are very long processes. So they understand that. They were putting their cards on the table and their concerns there. So we're not the only ones in the room that are pushing back on the timeline that the administration was pushing for. So moving forward, I've been involved in 2 workshops already. There have been 3, and this is going to be a continuing process, several workshops moving forward. And what we've established now is what you see here is kind of the first takeaways from this very first workshop where, some of the things, what are the goals? And DOE's goal is transitioning to, it says low GWP refrigerants, but it's really ultra low GWP. We already got New York and California, and then it's an alliance of 24 states that actually are looking at that 15 GWP limit or lower. And, DOE, I know wants to go even lower than that. So really part of the goal is what is that limit that has to be established, and what can we target? Right now, again, we're at 700, and that has already pretty much wiped out all the HFC stuff, and getting below 15 gets rid of, you only have a handful of A2L refrigerants that even comply with the limit of 15 on the global warming potential. So the other things that came up were, we really need to look at leak reduction and elimination and, things of that nature. And really the primary target for a lot of this discussion is there's a lot of research that's needed, and a lot of it's tied to this. It's, if we can eliminate leaks, then we don't have to worry about flammability so much, things of that nature. So again, it's been a lot of just throwing a lot of stuff up on the boards and seeing, what the consensus was of the group. But the biggest takeaway is the administration's really targeting getting to that next level as fast as we can get it there in the industry. And, some of the takeaways, well, let me open it for questions. That is the last of the slides. So I will let that go, and hopefully I'm still here. Is everybody still on the call?
We are. Some of us are.
Okay. I'll stop sharing, and if anybody has any questions. Let's see if I can get, there we go. All right. I do see everybody's still there, so.
Scratching their heads now.
I see you, Tom. Any questions for Florida?
Director Metz has a question.
Hey, Jim.
Yes.
The fire service through Fire Code Action Committee, when we were bringing A2Ls online, we worked really closely with AHRI on issues and concerns related to flammability and what this meant for the fire service. You know, it went back and forth quite a bit on information that they were willing to share, burn test information and whatnot. Are you feeling that as we continue to advance with flammable refrigerants that the industry is being very open and sharing all of the necessary information that we feel we need as the fire service in order to make decisions moving forward? I didn't mean to
At the
put you on
level
the
of the
spot
the
there.
level of the discussions we've had so far, I don't know. I know if they're getting into IP issues and stuff like that, I don't know how forthcoming they're going to be. But I mean, with the administration in these meetings, they made it sound like they're going to be part of the research and stuff like that. They don't want to do the research themselves. Part of this discussion is, hey, DOE, you're asking us to move somewhere that very quickly that, the market's not telling us to go there by any means. And that's what, corporations are all looking at. And they're saying, hey, if you're funding things, we'll work with you and, and help get there. But right now, I think that funding issue really will determine whether or not they're going to be forthcoming. Who's going to be doing the testing?
And I think
the
that's
manufacturers are doing it. I don't know that they're going to be forthcoming, providing that to everybody.
I think that's where the fire service was with A2Ls was, industry pushing or being told they need to push this forward faster than the fire service felt comfortable with the information that we were getting. Even here in California, we had to step in and ask our CARB, our Air Resources Board, to delay implementation of A2Ls because we didn't even have proper training for our installers ready to roll off before the mandate was going to go into effect. And that's kind of what we're monitoring and watching as the industry continues to evolve to make sure that we are, as a regulatory industry, evolving at the same pace that the DOE would like us to evolve with new products.
Yeah, the thing with this shop or workshop, EPRI and Oak Ridge National Labs are all hosting and part of this. So, they're all looking to be, I guess, the facilitators of the research and whatnot. Going to your original question, if the manufacturers are going to do their own research on the refrigerants they're trying to develop and things of that nature, I don't see them being all that open and transparent with competitors because they don't want to be doing all the research for somebody else's benefit.
Understood.
So I think whoever funds this research, if it's federally funded, yeah, it's going to be a transparent process. Everybody will, hey, submit the refrigerants you want to do. We'll do the testing, and everybody can see what's there, what the results are. Right now, just trying to get information out of the European interests. Provide they're being asked, hey, if you're using this stuff, show us all the test data that you had, showing it's all safe and all that stuff. And they're not forthcoming with providing that. So again, that might be IP issues and things of that nature that they're trying to prevent competitors from getting access to it. But right now I'm glad, to say, there was I don't know if anybody on the call is familiar with Tim Dominic. He's a fire official passed out of Illinois, I believe the Chicagoland area or something. But he was one of the presenters and, so was providing some fire services input during the hearings or not hearing, but during the workshop, which was good because I definitely felt that we needed to bring fire services on board to this as soon as possible because I understand that with A2Ls, that didn't happen necessarily at the beginning of the process, but toward the end, when you started asking about the research and the testing that was done, and that's my understanding when AHRI and UL pulled together all that testing to to cover your concerns. So, yeah, I mean, right
Perfect.
now it's, there's more to it also than, just the safety of dealing with the flammables. I mean, if they're trying to transform the air conditioning market across the United States to something completely different than what it is today, one, the cost is going to be exorbitant. They've already said, a lot of the systems that are available in Europe right now, I heard, one quote was that it's like 5 times the cost of what you pay for a system here right now. So we can do anything, but are you going to pay for it? And, most people won't pay for it. But if it's mandated, now we're, I don't know, it's painful. But
Thank you, Jim. We're just looking for full transparency.
yeah, and I just wanted to make sure, I was glad to be able to come on today and let you know that these activities are going on, and the administration's really, they're not, telling everybody what to do, but they're really trying to spur along action quickly. So kind of like the way I feel with the transition that I mentioned, the second program that EPA ran out with the technology transition. I think the manufacturers pushed that more than EPA pushed it, because EPAs don't want to manufacture dual products, one for HFCs and one for A2L refrigerants. So, I think, the manufacturers may start pushing this, because some of them, you look at Carrier, you look at Trane and all them, and they are producing products for Europe. They would love to just bring it over and start selling it here. So there's that push. Yeah, and that's one of those things that, for your knowledge too, if you're aware or not, that those UL standards that the SNAP program requires, they're UL 60335-2-40 and -89. There are international standards that are harmonized, but not the same. That's the IEC 60335-2-40. So, they're going to have a very similar certification, standard on their rating plate that could confuse people if they did start bringing that product into the U.S. And like I said, the UL standards are stricter here because we do have different construction here and different requirements. So, a lot of that has to do with the limitations of charge and stuff like that. They allow larger charges than we do in the U.S.
Thank you, Jim. Anyone else have any questions for Jim at all? Right.
If
Thank you again.
and I don't, just if I could say it before I get off the call, if you're not aware of it, with the A2L issues, PMG has a microsite on the ICC website. It's a iccsafe.org/PMG. When you get to that homepage or for our microsite, there's a hot topics tab, and A2L refrigerants is one of those. So all of the code provisions that, for states that are going back to the 2012 cycle, I have all of the code provisions from 2012 to 24 that involve A2Ls, from 2015 to 24 and 2018, et cetera. So there's documents out there to help all of you. And again, these are for the IMC, the IBC, and the IFC. There's a lot that made it into the IFC on A2Ls, again, with explosion control and things of that nature. So a lot of tables changed to address A2Ls. So all that's summarized out there. And then if you ever have questions on it, please reach out to me.
Thank you again, Jim. That was great info. Yeah.
And one last thing, the manufacturers are starting to get these products into the distribution channel. I was in a meeting a month ago and nobody had even started distributing it. It had just been being manufactured. It's now starting to get into the channel. So you may start seeing it on your doorsteps pretty soon. That'd be it.
Sounds good. All right. We're gonna move on to the regular agenda. Thank you again, Jim.
You're welcome.
Any additions or corrections to the agenda at all?
Hey, Sean, Carl here. Just one quick note before we move off that subject too. I just wanted to recognize Nadja Tremblay is on here from Carrier. So we can get back to this during the ongoing business, but I think she's got some information to contribute in terms of working with the fire service. So we can circle back to that and move through the rest of the agenda, but I just wanted to make sure that you recognize she was here.
Thanks, Carl. Naja, does that work for you? Good.
That's perfect. Just a quick note at the end. Yeah.
Okay. I'll bring. Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. On for the approval of the minutes, we have two sets of minutes to approve. We have the March 21st virtual meeting to approve today, and we also have our April 7th in-person meeting to approve at this one. So I'll entertain a motion on one or both of those.
This is Kelly. I move that we move them both.
This is Ted, second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? You guys have it, and the minutes approved for both meetings. Thank you. If we can do go through work group updates, I think they're going to be kind of quick today since we're missing a couple. But member engagement, I know Brian's not available. Is anyone else around that's been plugged into the member engagement that might be able to provide an update today? Hearing none. Emerging issues and trends. Michael Desrochers.
Good afternoon, everybody. Great presentation too, so thank you. So we held our emerging issue and trends work group meeting Monday. And our group discussed two new subjects. One of them was this multi-shot firing system for consumer fireworks. It's actually an app that you can download on your iPhone, and then you can set off your consumer fireworks. So that was one item that we discussed, and we're going to bring this up at our next meeting. We had a fairly small group Monday. And then the other one was these 12-foot diameter tunnels that they're building out in, I guess, out in Las Vegas. And these tunnels are designed to be transporting the general public through the use of EVs. And so Ed, I don't know if Ed's on here or not, but
Yeah, I'm here.
yeah, maybe Ed, not to put you on the spot, but do you want to just take a quick minute there and explain this?
Okay, what we have, I don't know how enthused they're going to be about me. They have you've heard of the Elon Musk company called the Boring Company. So the Boring Company is building a network of tunnels that are only 12-foot diameter that right now are being used to transport people using stock Tesla Model Y cars, and with a train driver.
I mean, it's going to
That will-
bore the crap out of you.
Huh? What's that? Because of it's the Boring Company.
Me having a side conversation with somebody in my office here that took me off mute.
Okay, took you off. It said something about boring, but the name of the company is the Boring Company. It's Elon's Musk's sense of humor. But the 12-foot diameter tunnels, the way they work now is that they have a train driver that's under the control of the company that will pick you up and drive you through a 12-foot diameter tunnel. So our conundrum is, or what have we been working on is, well, how do we regulate this? Do we regulate it as a fixed guideway system, or do we regulate it as a roadway tunnel? Which both of them are very different. The roadway tunnels are, the typical roadway tunnels got a very high ceiling as compared to this 12-foot tube. and is used for all kinds of freight and trucks and everything else. Well, fixed guideway system is like your tram, your metro train. So it's not really under NFPA 130 or NFPA 502. We approached NFPA and asked them, well, which one of these standards should we use for enforcement? And they were diplomatic about it and said, well, it really doesn't fit under either one of those standards. The issue is that in NFPA 130, that was really made for trains and metro, things like that, allows your exit access distance to be 2,500 feet, where your roadway tunnels, they're at 1,000 feet. So we've done some investigations or work or studies on how long it would take to get to an incident with a standard air pack that a responder would use, which would be maybe a 45-minute bottle. So you just, if you're spaced at 2,500 feet, by the time the firefighter reaches the car or the incident that could either be on fire or could be a medical emergency, by the time they get there walking, it's time to turn around because you've depleted your air supply. At 2,500 feet, you've got maybe 3 minutes to work on the car, then it's time for you to go back. They proposed maybe putting in a fire system to alleviate that, but then the problem with the fire system is you've got to have a clean environment to store the system and to use the system, because the firefighter cannot take off the mask in the atmosphere. In an IDLH atmosphere, they can't remove their mask. So 1,000 feet kind of works for us. The boring company has pushed back on that, and they're trying to rationalize that larger exit access travel distance, but we're not accepting it at this point. Why Mike thought it was okay for me to include this on this platform or this forum is that they would like to build these all over the country. So they've already, I don't know if they're in place in Austin, Texas yet, though they've approached Austin, Texas to get a system there now. So we're probably the proving ground for it before they move it, nationwide. And I spoke with, I spoke with Kelly about it a little bit, and when we were in Orlando, if you have any ideas on that. No, I see you, Kelly.
Well, the other issue, Ed, was that these tunnels ultimately are going to be connecting to buildings, right? So that it may connect from hotel to hotel and so forth.
They do. They're planning an entire network where there'll be a Caesars loop, there'll be a Encore loop, Resorts World loop, and ultimately right now they're starting near UNLV, but the idea is to go to the airport all the way to, if you're familiar with Vegas, the airport to the Stratosphere is the whole strip. So the entire network would be 65 miles of tunnel.
That's a lot. And no, I have nothing to add, Ed, at the moment. You caught me by surprise. So my mind's not there yet.
Yeah. Well, anyway, what we need, so there'll be a command centers. Everything's on camera. So with that size, we're thinking 3 command centers: a command center at the airport, one in the middle, and one at the Stratosphere. Plus, there's the question of the standpipe system is actually run in the floor of the roadway. So it's kind of a standpipe system, and it's an NFPA 24 system, and it's an NFPA 14 system because it's run underneath, and then you open a hatch to pull your standpipe out from the, I would say, the floor of the tunnel. So came up with that, and then there's a leaky cable radio repeater system across the top of the tunnel. But my concern is that if we do have an incident that involves the fire, the smoke layer is going to descend so rapidly that with only 12 feet and so heavily contained, that even with the ventilation system still got to ramp up. It's going to ramp up, how many seconds. You're still going to have a smoke layer descending really rapidly on anyone that would be exiting a car.
All right. Well, thank you, Ed, for presenting that there. So that's our emerging issue and trends report for this month.
Thank you, sir. Some good info. We'll move on to public awareness. Kelly Nicolello.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. We had our meeting, I think week before last, and we basically had finalized the tweets and everything else going out for Building Safety Month and got that document out. And thank you, Carl, for getting those out. We've got a couple articles that were in the works. E2Ls is one of those. And it's really going to be geared more towards a general information public view versus a first responder view. And so that's in the works as we speak. And other than that, it was a relatively brief meeting, but we've got articles in the hopper ready to go for other subjects. And we just need to get those pushed forward. And so I'll be spending some time making sure that from the process standpoint that we do what we have to do on our side so that Carl can facilitate those as appropriate. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thanks, Kelly. Good
I
stuff.
don't know the size of the bike, period. I'm located in Arlington Heights, and you're welcome to come.
I'm gonna mismute here, but thank you, Kelly, for that info. Thanks for your work on the tweets and stuff for Building Safety Month. Training and education, I think Mark Wassom wasn't available today. I don't know if anyone else has any info from that group at all. Pause for a second. All right, hearing none, we'll wait till next month. Director Metz, if you can just share some information coming from the board.
Good morning or afternoon, everybody. Happy to be here. Yeah, it's been a busy time for ICC coming out of Orlando. A lot of great work done there by our code officials and members of our industry partners. Some of you were actually on code development committees, and I thank you for your service on there. But today is the day that CDP Access opens for people to put modifications in based on what was heard in Orlando. CDP Access will be open for those mods to be inserted up until July 8th. So July 8th is your deadline to submit any mods that will then be heard by the code development committees in committee action hearing number 2 that will be in Long Beach. All of the information is on CDP Access. You can see how the committee voted on every item, and the video links are up to the testimony for each of the items that were heard by our various different committees. So all that is available to you. Moving forward, we are shifting gears. We're deep into Building Safety Month now, and I know a lot of you have been dealing with your home chapters or your home jurisdictions that may have done proclamations. We thank you for those, and if you have any proclamations that you want to submit, you can send those over to Carl, and he'll get them deposited where they need to be here, because we do track those proclamations through ICC. The board is still working very closely with our CEO search ad hoc committee. That will be one of our major issues we will be tackling over the summer, is to hold some additional interviews. And our hope is still that we will be able to announce a successor for Dominic Sims at the Long Beach meeting, ABM, which will be a huge celebration, both our 30th anniversary and Dominic's final ABM as CEO of ICC. So a lot of things happening, a lot of things to prepare for, and a lot of reasons to be in Long Beach this year as we finalize our schedule. I know the link went out for you all to be able to register and use the complimentary ABM and conference registration. I know our meeting is until Wednesday, but I really encourage everybody to find a way to get there to be able to be present for the business meeting that will occur on Monday morning. And some of the educational opportunities that will be offered as well, that I know Mark Wassom is working hard on to get a fire service representation on that as well there. Aside from that, we are a little bit quiet right now as far as what the board is doing. We have a board meeting coming up, a virtual meeting. We'll be going over some council policy changes. And I was on an ad hoc committee meeting yesterday all day for our International Energy Conservation Code, one of the items I sit on. So additional information will be coming out possibly for the next code cycle there. Our battery and energy storage system ad hoc committee continues to be doing great work. Myself and Director Hampton continue to represent the board as liaisons to that group, but Chief O'Brien really is doing an outstanding job of leading that group. Our work group chairs are doing an outstanding job of bringing vital information to the full committee as we look to create the final report that will go to the board. Christine Reed is doing an outstanding job of herding the cats with that group right there as we look to what that final document is going to look like, and look to see where it goes beyond the creation of this report, and if there will be additional information and work needing to be done as we move forward into 2025 by this ad hoc committee. So fire service is still very active, and we thank you all for your participation, and you're an important part of ICC. I'm able to answer any questions you guys may have.
Thank you, Randy. Appreciate the
Thank
update.
you.
I think I saw Director McDaniel on. I don't know if you've got anything you want to add, or. You jumped off. As far as a quick report for me, the board instituted some new policies coming up. So one of which was the chairs and the vice chairs and some of the committees and councils and such attended a diversity, equity, and inclusion training, which was held earlier today. They did a nice job as a 1-hour session that talked about DEI issues. And this morning, I'm like, oh man, this is a crazy day. I got to jam this in. And it was double booked as it was, but it turned out it was a great hour spent on just hitting some highlights on DEI. So thanks to ICC for putting that on. I had the opportunity to attend CFSI and sit at our table with some of the staff in the ICC group. That was a well attended as usual, and I think we had some good conversations, and appreciate the opportunity to attend CFSI representing the ICC Fire Service Membership Council. And then as Carl, I think a couple of you probably heard earlier, We spent some time together as well had an opportunity to attend the first ever World Fire Congress in DC last week, talking about some of the issues and trying to bring a global group together to share some commonalities with trends and issues. I think the emerging issues and trends that coming out of that group, and it'll be anxious to see what happens over the next between now and 2 years when they go to the UK and the communities of practice that start to share some of the information. So look forward to hearing how that goes. Other than that, nothing else to report. Vice Chair Tim Diehl.
Thanks, Sean. Good morning, afternoon, everyone. Here again, good time in Orlando. And then the CFSI meeting or dinner was also a great time to get together and network. Not a whole lot on my plate right now besides work. However, the continuity, or what used to be the continuity outreach, now the steering committee, will be meeting May 28th. So we'll be following up on a couple items, primarily dealing with the policies and procedures that each of the councils need to kind of adopt or update in coordinates with the CP 904. And you'll hear more about that later on in the meeting today. And that's pretty much all I got going on right now.
That's enough. Thanks, Tim. Carl, you have an update for us.
I do. I actually have the younger, faster, more improved version of myself with me here in the office today. The guy standing over my right shoulder is actually my oldest son, Liam. So Liam is actually interning with Chief Tom LaBelle, who many of you know, who's the Prince William County, Virginia fire chief, and he was at an MWCOG public safety meeting with EMs, police chiefs, fire chiefs earlier today, and now he's here at the office and just met our CEO. So anyway, I just wanted to introduce Liam really quick. Liam, say hello to everybody.
Hey, how's it going?
So he's having a good time here. We're going to be actually working on the Building Safety Month events that we're doing here this afternoon. So today's a big day for us. We've got a panel discussion 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. that's going to be facilitated by the U.S. Fire Administrator, Dr. Lori Moore Merrill, and we've got 2 folks from the White House joining us. White House Deputy National Climate Advisor Mary Frances Repko, and also Lori Schumann. Lori used to be in that position. She's since moved over to Senior Policy Advisor for Housing and Urban Policy at the Domestic Policy Council, which is part of the White House as well. But we've got IEM's president, the International Association of Emergency Managers, President Justin Cates joining us. Mariah Lockinsing, who's president of Women in Code Enforcement and Development in Virginia. She's also a inspector regulator in Fairfax County, Virginia, and Carlos Martin joining us, who's the director of Remodeling Futures Program and Joint Center for Housing Studies at Harvard University. So it's going to be a really great panel discussion, and then that'll be followed by our annual, now 44th, I believe, annual Building Safety Month. So I also wanted to echo what Sean said. That's really my update for today, but wanted to echo what Sean said. I mean, it's been a big few weeks since it seems like forever ago that we met at the Congressional Fire Services Institute dinner for those of the FSMC governing committee that joined us there. We left right from there, and many of us were up at the National Fallen Firefighters Foundation Memorial Weekend in Emmitsburg. It was a rainy weekend, but we moved it inside and pulled off the production. I assisted the production team. Chief Larry Curl led that team and had another successful production and broadcast from the inside. I believe it was 226 fallen members of the fire service this year. Not all of those were current line of duty deaths. Some of those were catch-up folks from other perils that had been since recognized by the federal government and the foundation. So we were able to move all those families through and still do it in a good amount of time, even considering the inclement weather. And then right from there, as Sean said, to the World Fire Congress, where that was a fantastic first-time event. I think the 2 big pieces that I took away from that were, one, that the built environment was literally part of the very first discussion that came up from our international partners. and all others that were in the room. I think, Michael, you'll probably agree with that as well, too. We heard a lot about the built environment, particularly codes and standards, and how they impact our ability to be able to do work in the built environment and built environment safety. But then the other piece that really impressed, I think, all of us, Michael and I and Sean and the others that were there, was that our international partners, even if they've been working problems ahead of us, are clearly experiencing the very same problems that we are and challenges here. And at the very least, we've now expanded our network internationally a lot more than it was 2 weeks ago, to be able to have network out there to be able to help solve these problems. So that's my update from here. Good discussion today, and I'll turn it back unless there's any questions.
Thanks, Carl. And thanks, Liam, for jumping on. You do a much better job with your tie and everything than your father, just saying. Do a quick updates from the membership council officers and liaisons. I think, Tom, I believe you're on for BMC. Sorry, can't talk. Maybe. Lost a couple, I know. Tim, I think we'll skip this. So, Tim, I think you covered membership council steering committee. I don't think we had any more to add on that, right?
No, we're good.
I didn't see anything. I see anybody from global membership council. Am I missing anybody for an update from global membership? Okay. Emerging leaders. Kylie, I think you were on.
Hear me now?
We got you.
Good. Okay. So I wasn't able to attend last month's meeting, so that's my bad. But as you guys know, we're in the midst of Building Safety Month. We've created some videos that are kind of specifically geared towards each theme for each week of Building Safety Month, and those have been posted, and we'll keep posting those for the rest of the weeks here in May. So keep an eye out for those. Like them and share them. They're going to be posted on Facebook, LinkedIn. They're also on YouTube. We've already touched on this a little bit, but we're also just encouraging jurisdictions and municipalities to share their Building Safety Month proclamations and pictures, just to kind of get that outreach and promote knowledge of Building Safety Month. It's also our time of the year here for the ELMC mug swap. So we're swapping mugs with other individuals within the building safety industry. It's just a great way to connect with others and build your mug collection. I'll include a link to that. There's still sign up spots available if anyone's interested. And then, of course, we have the ABM coming up in Long Beach, and there's registration is open for the Wicked Day of Service. So we encourage people to sign up for that if you have time, and also to make donations. I think that's all I have for now, unless anyone has questions.
Thank you very much. Anyone else that I missed on reports in that area? All right, we'll move on to ongoing business. Naja, I'm going to actually jump you ahead real quick in this section, if you don't mind. We'll pull you in here so we don't forget you.
That's awesome. Just a quick comment. I'm Nadia Tremblay. I work for Carrier Global Corporation. Previously, I represented KIDE, so I really fell into the fire service and work with them quite tightly. But I wanted to just throw this out for consideration, and maybe we'll take this offline, that industry, we're super ready to talk to the fire service and get them involved with that next step of A3s. We're started to work with Jim Dominique and a couple of the other fire associations to start the discussion, right? Because we are just as forced into this as the fire service will be in the end. So I'm not sure how to truly approach this yet, but I think we wanted to get a group together. We want to maybe come to our building in Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, where we can just come together and just lay out what our hurdles are, what we think we can do together, especially with the testing. You know, it was mentioned that there was some testing involved, and I had facilitated that whole program with AHRI in the past for the A12. So I think there's some things that we can do a little bit better than what we did with the A2Ls implementation. So I just wanted to throw that out. If anybody wants to jump on that wagon or has some ideas on how we can get this started, and who would be the key players that we should bring together, please, I don't know, I can put my email into the chat box. I would love to get some feedback. how we can do it, what we can do it, and what makes sense.
Sounds good. Yeah, and if you want to work with Carl and I think we can help kind of facilitate some of that from this group. That would be great.
Yeah, I think there's true value to this with the A2L implementation. We were just as caught off guard as the fire service was with how to enroll things. And I came from the Cika side, so I really haven't been in HVAC all that long. You know, I was called in to kind of facilitate the fire service with that, and we were all just confused. So I think we want to just take that confusion out, lay the cards out on the table, look at what we have, and so we can get through the hurdles amongst each other. I mean, we still have to work with the EPA and all of these other, you know, situations. So at least we can come together and work together. And we work great with all of our competitors. Truly, if there is a industry interest, we can all talk it aside, unless it's obviously like super hot technology. But if there's an industry interest, we work with Rheem, we work with Daikin, we work with all of them, and we get together and we put our differences aside and we work to a common goal. It's very possible. So.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions at all?
I think Fire Code Action Committee, Sean, also has a work group that deals with this. So between you guys and FCAC,
yeah,
I think you can get the right players to work with Naja.
Yeah, I really think there's big value to it right in the forefront, not waiting 2 years in when we're all scrambling to figure out what we need to do and what this stuff is all about, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. If you want to share your info, we'll circle back, and that'd be
yeah,
great.
We'll circle back. And I think again, like we were just talking about it with Jim Dominic, and I was in a meeting with them, and also UL and a couple other of the key players, and I said, well, let's get this baby on the road here. Let's start the discussion now versus being reactive in the end. So love it.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And now, if Rob, if you want to give us an update on the testing survey results that you've been working on, that would be great.
Thanks, Chief. I'm going to be so quick, I'm not even going to turn on my camera. Plus, I need a haircut, so who knows? You may recall that I came to the group in February asking for some support in conducting a survey among the fire service of who does and what level of performance they do for fire systems inspections and testing, primarily acceptance testing. We were hoping to get out to a broad audience. I guess the sad news or the bad news is I only got 38 responses from the entire group. So I don't think we have enough information there, enough data there to draw any conclusions whatsoever. So I just wanted to close out and let you know that I appreciate your efforts and everything you did. We just couldn't light the proverbial fire under anybody to get some responses. So thank you, and I'll try some other venues. And if I get something out of it, I'll let you know.
All right. I appreciate the update. Hopefully we can get some better data moving forward. Moving on to new business, Doug Nelson, if you want to give us an update on the work that you've been leading on the coming into compliance with Policy 9.
Yep, thanks, Sean. I don't know if you want me to share my screen or not to see the product or not, but basically essentially I'll just give a quick description and see what you want to do, Sean. A quick description is we identified essentially 5 sections that either weren't covered in CP 904 or else we felt needed further definition for the FSMC specifically beyond CP 904. So those sections were purpose. So we just further defined the mission of the Fire Service Membership Council. Under council rules, we just described that other duties and programs can also be authorized by the board of directors for the FSMC. Governing committees. So we further defined what the actual FSMC consists of, which is 18 voting members, and MOUs existing for certain groups for the appointment of those seats and approval by the board for those seats. That included the IAFC having 8 seats, NASM having 4 seats, and then the ICC having 6 seats. We also defined the standing work groups that we have, or working committees that we have at the FSMC. And then we also added a section for reporting, just detailing when we need an annual report due to the steering committee. So those were essentially the 5 sections. Sean, I don't know if you want me to share that or if we need to vote to have that sent on to the steering committee, or how you want to proceed with it.
I was thinking if you want to share it out with that sort of work group, get a quick blessing, maybe the next couple of days, that maybe we could share it to the full governing committee so we can stay on track to get it to the membership steering committee by the end of the month, like we were on track to do. Tim, any thoughts otherwise on that?
Yeah, no, I mean, definitely, I think it's a good document from what I've seen. I think the sooner we can get it to everybody else on the governing council, to get their eyes on it and get their approval for it, the better off we'll be. So, and then we can kind of take the next steps.
Given that thought process, Doug, maybe if you're ready, which I think you pretty much are, maybe if we can call on Carl to share it with the governing committee members, and we'll just get it circulated around. Hopefully by the end of next week, we can get some general consensus of where we're in a good spot moving forward to the next step. That makes sense.
Yep, I'll send a new copy over to Carl, or an updated one.
All right, awesome. Thank you very much for taking the lead on that. Quick update on the annual conference. Carl sent out a bunch of information as far as registration. It's been talked about a little bit already at the meeting today, so hopefully we can have great attendance like Orlando. I guess I heard that was a great meeting. And just get everything in. And Carl, do you have any other update on that?
I don't, just wanted to make sure that everybody had received that information, and thanks to Randy for putting it out there. Just make sure if you have not gotten your hotel yet, go get your hotel today by the email that I sent you. Registration you can do kind of anytime. You've got plenty of time for that. It's just a comp full registration that includes the gala. I know that's usually a popular question, but hotel space, goes very quickly. So please make sure you get your room set up and then do your flights after that. That's all I had.
Thank you very much. Our next meeting will be virtual. It'll be Thursday, June 20th at 1:30 Eastern time. Everyone can attend. Any questions or comments from the audience at all?
Sean, this is Kelly. I got 2 things for the good of the order I'd like to share.
Sure. Yep. We can move to that. Thanks, Kelly.
So I've already put this in the chat. So the information I'm about to mention here is available for anybody to look at real quick. But UL is looking for additional technical committee members for items that have to do with EV charging and power packs and battery containment enclosures and micromobility charging equipment. So the standards that we're interested in having additional AHJs involved in are in the chat, along with the link of where you would go to make the application to do that. And most of these are virtual. If they do require travel, UL usually picks that up. So that's one item. And then the second item is NFPA has actually put out a formal request to create a new standard, which is NFPA 800, which is the battery safety code. So it's kind of it's a whole new technical committee if it gets approved, and they're going to be doing many of the things that are probably going to be coming out of the ad hoc committee from the ICC side, or a lot of the things that they will have in common. I don't know what that's going to look like. The timing for that and everything else is there. There's a web page dedicated to that. That web page is on the chat, so you can click to that if you like to get more information about that. But they're supposed to make the determination by the middle of July whether or not they're going to actually create this or not. And my guess is NFPA doesn't put out formal requests for a standard without knowing that more than likely, even though they're following a process, it's going to get approved. There's a lot of the appetite for it as we know within ICC on something to that nature or not. Whether or not that'll be a finding or from the ad hoc committee, we'll find out. But NFPA is moving forward with this in a formal manner. So just a heads up to that to everybody who might be interested in that. And that information, like I said, is in the chat.
Thanks, Kelly. That's great. Highlight one other quick thing in the chat. Beth Tubbs shared some information on the report of the committee action hearing comments that was posted just a couple hours ago. So, and then while I'm on the Beth comment, I just shout out to Beth for her recent promotion to VP of Codes at ICC. So we'll look forward to working with you in that capacity.
Thank you, Sean.
Anybody else have anything for the good of the order? All right, thank you all for hanging on. Long meeting like usual, but I think some great information shared, and it's great to see the work of our group. And we'll look forward to seeing everyone in June. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Sounds good. I'm assuming everyone's in favor. Enjoy the rest of your day, and talk to you, I'm sure, in the middle, but if not, we'll see you in a month. Thank you.
Take care, everybody.
Thanks, Sean.
Thank you.